we got to talk Ohio State. Now, they didn't win the game, but they did have some top recruits on campus today, namely Nahiem Offord. Now, we've been talking about Nahiem Offord's recruitment for a while. I'll be honest with you, Steve. I wasn't expecting him to make this visit. I thought he was not going to make it, but there was confirmation that he was sitting in the student section. Nahiem Offord was there, but was Jahkeem Stewart there? And what do you make of Offord stepping on campus?
Well, look, Nahiem Offord's been committed to Ohio State since February. Just because there's a whole lot of smoke about Auburn doesn't mean that he doesn't have love for the Buckeyes. He does. Tim Walton, his lead recruiter, Coach Duhart, Coach Knowles. Ohio State's a place that he believes can get the best out of them, and it's a program that's always in the conversation for championships and players getting drafted high, and that still doesn't change after today. This visit was on his radar for a while. He wanted to get up for games earlier in the year. His brother plays at Tulane. He's got a younger brother that plays. It's not easy for the family to just pick up and get to Ohio State like it is for Auburn. I'm not surprised he made the visit. My on 3 RPM is obviously on Auburn. So I think that my intel favors Auburn down the stretch. You got Florida swinging in here. You got Oregon swinging in here. You got Ohio State trying to keep them in the fold. He's been to 4 Auburn games, been to practice, and believes in the trajectory of Auburn, and the family likes the coaching staff. We'll see what happens in this recruitment. But I mean, just because there's buzz about him going to Auburn doesn't mean he doesn't have love for Ohio State and getting back up there, seeing if they can rekindle that magic. It's been a while since he's been up there. Look, it's a tough locker room.
It'll be a tough time to rekindle that magic. I think
tough locker room to be in after the game.
Yeah.
How do the coaches respond to the players that are on campus? Because look, it's easier said than done, but you're turning the page. College football playoff.
Yeah.
Next year, you don't want to lose this game next year. These are the players that are help you win these games next year. I mean. And stay off the message boards. I'll tell you what, the diehards are pissed.
They are. They're going in. Well, we'll see what happens. But I think for the reasons that you stated, why it was so hard for Nahiem Offord to make it to Columbus this year, I think that those play into the reasons why he's going to flip. Like you said, it's hard to make it. The family make it as well. These other teams that are recruiting him that you mentioned besides Oregon are all kind of located near him. So we're going to see what happens with Nahiem Offord. Now, we got to talk David Sanders. I know David Sanders didn't make it in this week, didn't need to make it in for Ohio State to have a shot. But Steve, what is the latest buzz on number 1 overall tackle, David Sanders, as we sit, about 4 days from signing day?
I got a text about 6:30 in the morning that he was not going to make the visit this weekend. Our Pete Nakos had a story this morning saying that final decision was made on Friday night. I spoke to a source Saturday morning, a little later, that said, I just wanted to make sure they didn't change their mind again and get in the car and go up to them. Right. So, Look, I think he's going to stick with Tennessee, but that visit to Ohio State last week, there was some momentum starting to build for the Buckeyes. Things were happening in that recruitment that had hit the Sanders family reevaluating some options, but I think that visit to Ohio State was motivation for Tennessee to tie some things up on their end and get it done. And I think David's always wanted to be a Vol. They've recruited him since 8th grade. When he committed to them in the summer, it's the only staff he's talked to. He knows the commits so well. He's been there a bunch. But in the new era of college football recruiting, there's dialogue and lingo and language and all kinds of things. And when you make your commitment, are those things the same at the end of the process? And so I think it was just getting things aligned again for Sanders and the Vols. And look, Ohio State was a place he liked a lot. They were the close runner-up, and getting back on campus with Ohio State, it was a great visit last weekend. And a great experience, and certainly a place where he could see himself also being successful. And the family's got so many great relationships, but not visiting Tennessee seems to that dialogue seems to be getting stronger again. Not that it was ever not good, you know what I'm saying? But again, getting everything buttoned up with the Vols And then certainly Tennessee, they're headed to the college football playoff after their win at Vanderbilt today.
So you feel like Tennessee did what they needed to do over the course of that from the visit until now, to where you feel like it's trending back in that direction?
Well, that's what it's sounding like, talking to some sources with knowledge of the recruitment.
Okay. And no Jahkeem Stewart. Does that mean that Ohio State is officially out for Jahkeem?
Yeah, and we talked about that on Whip Around earlier in the week. We weren't expecting Jahkeem Stewart at Ohio State this weekend. He was at Oregon last weekend for his second visit of Oregon for the fall. Coming out of that visit, USC looked like the leader still. He took his official visit to USC a couple weekends ago. From on the field opportunity to off the field opportunity, resources, and infrastructure, USC has grabbed a lot of momentum in this recruitment. But we said, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if he popped up again at LSU or USC one more time before deciding. He did not pop up at USC today. That would have been his third straight West Coast trip in 3 weekends. But he was at LSU earlier this week. Shea Dixon from the Bengal Tiger confirming that he was there. And I think around LSU, optimism was pretty low on their position coming into the week. But getting Stewart and his camp back on campus on Wednesday, they're going to make this recruitment at the very least interesting leading up to the early signing period next week.
Yeah, it's getting really interesting because right now, Ohio State sits at number 3 in the rankings. At one time, they were number 1. They were number 1 for a while, Ohio State. Michigan is now sitting at number 8. Michigan deals a big blow to Ohio State on the field, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Michigan could end up finishing higher than Ohio State in the recruiting rankings. Now, I'm not saying that Michigan's going to have a top 5 class or a top 3 class. No. I think the way that it could play out is if Ohio State loses a Naeem Offord, if they lose a TJ Alford, the linebacker he flips to Miami, couple that with Michigan, so now Ohio State maybe slides to 5 or 6. And now Michigan adds a Ty Haywood and a Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, 2 top 50 players. I mean, you could see Michigan slide to number 5, Ohio State slide to 6 or something like that. And in the end, could be Michigan over Ohio State. Let me know what you guys think. Put it in the comment section below. Does Ohio State or Michigan finish higher in the recruiting rankings? Let me know. Comment section below.